My child, stop scrolling. Do not move away from this moment, because something is waiting for you in the silence between these words. What you are about to hear was not meant to reach everyone. It was meant to find the one heart that has carried unanswered questions, unspoken love, and a name that still appears in the quietest corners of the mind. Pause here for a moment. Your soulmate has written you a secret love letter, but this is not an ordinary letter. It was written from a place they have hidden from the world, a place so vulnerable that even they are afraid to look at it for too long. And before this message reaches its final word, you are going to understand why they believe the letter may disappear in 5 minutes. Do not skip what comes next, because the first sentence they wrote was not, "I miss you." It was not, "I love you." It was something far more revealing. They began with the words, "I do not know whether I still have the right to say your name." Then they stopped. Their hand remained frozen above the page as memories came rushing back, not as gentle pictures, but as living moments. The sound of your voice. The way your presence made ordinary days feel important. The way you could sense something was wrong even when they insisted everything was fine. They remembered how you looked at them as though you could see beyond the walls they had spent years building. And that frightened them more than they ever admitted. Heaven has witnessed the writing of this letter. Not because every sentence is perfect, but because every sentence contains a truth that has waited too long to be spoken. Your soulmate has tried to write it before. Once late at night, when the world was quiet and regret felt louder than reason. Once after hearing a song that reminded them of you. Once after dreaming that you were walking away while they called your name, but no sound came from their mouth. Each time, they deleted the words. Each time, fear convinced them that silence was safer. But silence has now become heavier than confession. Stay until the end, because something huge is waiting for you inside the part of the letter they almost refused to write. They are not only confessing what they feel. They are revealing what happened during the time you believed they had forgotten you. They want you to know that distance did not erase the connection. It exposed it. Every attempt to replace the feeling only proved how rare it was. Every distraction eventually led them back to the same question: why does my heart still search for this person in every room, every conversation, and every future I imagine? My child, there is a reason this message carries urgency, but do not mistake urgency for fear. The 5 minutes are symbolic of a doorway that does not remain open forever. It is the brief moment between hiding and honesty, between repeating the past and choosing something different. Your soulmate feels that doorway opening now. They sense that if they do not speak, life may move forward without giving them another perfect chance. They are not being threatened by time. They are being awakened by it. The letter continues, "I pretended I was stronger without you, but the truth is, I was only quieter." Read that again with your heart. They did not become unaffected. They became skilled at concealing the effect. They learned how to smile in front of others. They learned how to change the subject when someone mentioned love. They learned how to appear busy when their thoughts were returning to you. Yet there were moments when the mask slipped. A familiar place. A phrase you used to say. A scent in the air. A sudden memory arriving without permission. And for a few seconds, everything they had suppressed stood directly before them. Do not skip, because the next revelation changes the meaning of their silence. Your soulmate was not always avoiding you. Sometimes they were avoiding the version of themselves that appeared when they were near you. You awakened sincerity in them. You made them want to become more honest, more courageous, and more emotionally present. But transformation can feel uncomfortable to someone who has survived by hiding. They believed love should feel easy at all times, yet what they felt with you was deeper than ease. It challenged them. It asked them to stop performing. It asked them to remove the armor. And because they did not know how to stand without that armor, they stepped backward. You may have interpreted that distance as rejection. You may have wondered whether your care was too much, whether your heart was too open, whether your presence was somehow difficult to choose. Heaven wants to correct that thought now. Their fear was never proof that you lacked value. Often, people retreat not because the connection means too little, but because it reveals too much. Your soulmate saw in you the possibility of a love that could not be controlled through games, half-truths, or emotional distance. They saw something that required maturity. At that time, they did not trust themselves to hold it. The secret letter says, "You were offering me something real, and I was still negotiating with my wounds." Those words cost them more than you know. They have blamed circumstances, timing, confusion, and other people. But in this letter, they finally stop hiding behind those explanations. They admit that some of the obstacles were outside them, but the greatest obstacle lived within. It was the fear of being known and still not being enough. It was the fear of receiving love and then losing it. It was the fear that if they gave you their whole heart, you would eventually discover every imperfect part and leave. And now another layer is opening. There was a conversation they never told you about. It happened when someone close to them noticed the change in their energy. This person asked why they became distant whenever your name appeared. Your soulmate tried to laugh it away, but the question remained. Finally, they admitted, because that person saw me in a way I was not ready to see myself. The room became silent. No one mocked them. No one dismissed what they said. Instead, the person beside them asked one simple question, and what happens if they stop waiting for you to become ready? That question followed your soulmate for days. It followed them into the morning. It followed them into crowded spaces. It followed them into the moments when they reached for their phone and then put it down. It followed them until they could no longer call their silence wisdom. Stay here, because the letter was born from that question. Your soulmate began imagining a future in which you had healed completely, moved forward, and opened your heart to someone who did not hesitate. They imagined you laughing without wondering whether they were watching. They imagined you receiving the consistency you once hoped to receive from them. And instead of feeling angry, they felt something sharper, the realization that you deserve that kind of love, even if they are not the one brave enough to give it. This is where they nearly tore the letter apart. They wrote, "I want you to be happy, but I am terrified that your happiness may no longer include me." Then they crossed out the sentence. Then they wrote it again. They did not want to sound selfish. They did not want to place responsibility on your heart. They know that love is not proven by demanding access to someone. Love is proven by respecting their freedom. Yet honesty required them to admit that the thought of losing your place in their future has forced them to confront everything they postponed. My beloved child, listen carefully. This message is not telling you to abandon discernment. It is not asking you to run toward uncertainty simply because someone feels regret. Heaven is reminding you that true reconciliation, if it comes, must be built with truth, action, patience, and respect. A letter can open a door, but character must walk through it. Words can reveal emotion, but consistency must prove intention. You are not being asked to forget what you learned. You are being prepared to understand what may soon be placed before you. Do not skip the next part, because your soulmate included a confession that they have never shared with anyone. They wrote, "There were days I checked whether you had changed your picture, whether you were still in the same place, whether your eyes looked happier without me." They felt ashamed admitting it. They knew they had no right to observe your life from a distance while refusing to participate in it honestly. Still, they looked. Not constantly, not obsessively, but during moments when missing you became impossible to disguise. One day, they saw something that unsettled them. It was not necessarily another person. It may have been a simple expression on your face, a new confidence, a quiet peace, or the absence of sadness they had secretly expected to find. They realized your life was not standing still. Your spirit was growing. Your energy was changing. The version of you who once waited for explanations was becoming someone who no longer needed them in order to move forward. That is when the 5-minute feeling began. They understood that there are moments in life when a person must choose whether to remain a spectator or become truthful. The opportunity may not vanish literally in 5 minutes, but courage often arrives in brief waves. If ignored repeatedly, it becomes harder to hear. Your soulmate is standing in one of those waves now. The letter is their attempt to move before fear speaks louder again. Something extraordinary is waiting for you, so stay until the end. The next sentence they wrote reveals that they remember a moment you may believe they forgot. It was a moment when you offered kindness after they had given you confusion. Perhaps you asked whether they were all right. Perhaps you forgave something without receiving the apology you deserved. Perhaps you looked at them with sadness but refused to become cruel. They remember. They remember more clearly than they have ever told you. They wrote, "You had every reason to become cold, but you remained human with me." That moment changed them quietly. At first, they misunderstood your kindness. They thought it meant you would always remain available. Later, they understood it differently. Your kindness was not weakness. It was evidence of your character. And because they failed to honor it properly, they have carried a private regret that no distraction could fully silence. But heaven also wants you to hear this. You are not required to keep proving your goodness through endless patience. Compassion does not demand self-abandonment. Love does not ask you to ignore patterns that wound you. Your soulmate's awakening is their responsibility. Your healing is sacred. The letter may explain their heart, but it does not erase your experience. Both truths can exist together. The letter continues, I wish I could return to the moment when you asked me to be honest. I would answer differently now." Then they described the answer they should have given. They should have said, "I care more than I know how to handle." They should have said, "I am afraid because this matters." They should have said, "I need time, but I do not want to lose you in the process." Instead, they chose vague words, delayed responses, and emotional distance. They hoped you would somehow understand what they refused to communicate. You understood more than they realized, but you could not build a future from clues. That truth has finally reached them. Do not skip. The biggest revelation is approaching. Your soulmate has been asking for a sign, though they may not use spiritual language when describing it. They asked for clarity. They asked for one moment that would make the correct path undeniable. And recently, something happened. It may have been a dream, a conversation, a sudden memory, or an unexpected encounter with a reminder of you. Whatever form it took, it brought the same message: stop pretending that silence is neutral. Silence also makes choices. Silence can close doors. Silence can allow love to become a memory when it might have become a mature beginning. This realization did not make them impulsive. It made them serious. They began thinking not only about what they wanted to say, but about what they were prepared to change. That is important. Regret without growth becomes repetition. Emotion without responsibility becomes another wound. Your soulmate knows this now. They understand that reaching for you requires more than a dramatic confession. It requires them to become safe enough for an honest conversation. The letter says, "I do not want to return only because I am lonely. I want to return because I finally understand what I failed to protect." They paused after writing that sentence. It frightened them because it made everything real. Loneliness seeks relief. Love seeks responsibility. Loneliness asks, "Who can comfort me?" Love asks, "How can I honor what this person has entrusted to me?" Your soulmate is beginning to ask the second question. Still, there is something they have not told you. Something happened shortly before they began writing the letter. A message reached them, or a truth was revealed, or someone mentioned your name in a way they did not expect. The details remain hidden for now, but the effect was immediate. They realized that an assumption they had carried about you may have been wrong. They may have believed you stopped caring. They may have thought you had misunderstood them completely. They may have accepted another person's version of events without asking you directly. Now that version is falling apart. Stay till the end, because what they discovered caused them to reopen an old conversation in their mind. They remembered a specific sentence you once said. At the time, they dismissed it or misunderstood it. Now they hear it differently. Your words were not pressure. They were honesty. You were not asking them to become perfect. You were asking them to become present. You were not demanding a promise they could not keep. You were asking them not to make you feel invisible. The realization brought tears to their eyes. Not because they suddenly became weak, but because the truth removed every excuse they had used to protect themselves. They could no longer say they did not know what you needed. You had told them. They simply were not ready to respond. The letter grows more personal here. They write about the future. Not a fantasy filled with perfect days, but a real future containing conversations, misunderstandings, ordinary mornings, difficult decisions, shared laughter, healing, and patience. They imagine what it would feel like to choose you openly rather than carry you secretly. They imagine being able to say your name without changing the subject. They imagine standing beside you without wondering whether they deserve the peace they feel. Then they write, "I do not know whether you will accept this letter. I only know I cannot keep loving you in a language made entirely of silence." That sentence is the heart of everything. For a long time, they believed unspoken love was still noble because the feeling was real. But hidden love can become unfair when the other person is left questioning their worth. Feeling deeply does not replace communicating clearly. Your soulmate understands that the love they never expressed could not comfort you, reassure you, or help you understand what was happening. Their silence may have protected them, but it left you alone with questions they should have answered. My child, perhaps you felt foolish for caring. You were not foolish. Perhaps you felt embarrassed for sensing a connection that seemed invisible in their actions. Your intuition may have recognized emotion, but your wisdom also recognized inconsistency. Both were true. They felt something real, and they failed to handle it well. This letter is their first attempt to hold both truths without escaping either one. Do not skip what follows, because heaven is revealing why the letter is secret. It is not secret because your soulmate is ashamed of loving you. It is secret because they have not yet decided how to deliver it. They fear that once the words leave their hands, they will no longer control the outcome. You may respond with warmth. You may respond with caution. You may need time. You may choose not to reopen the door at all. They understand that confession does not guarantee reunion. That is the price of honesty. To speak truthfully is to release control over how the truth is received. They are learning to accept that. The 5 minutes are passing in their mind. 1 minute belongs to fear. 1 belongs to regret. 1 belongs to hope. 1 belongs to the memory of you. And the final minute belongs to choice. Will they keep the letter hidden, or will they finally allow you to know what has lived behind their silence? Something huge is waiting for you in that final choice. Your soulmate folds the letter, then opens it again. They add 1 more paragraph because there is still 1 truth missing. Their hand trembles as they write, "There is something I did not tell you about the day everything changed between us." This is the part heaven has not yet fully revealed. The day you believed they became distant was not as simple as it appeared. There was another conversation, another influence, another fear moving beneath the surface. Someone may have said something that caused them to doubt the future. A past wound may have reopened. A responsibility may have overwhelmed them. Or they may have learned something about themselves that made them believe they would eventually disappoint you. Whatever happened, they made a decision without giving you the full truth. And now they regret it. The letter continues, "I let you believe my silence meant I felt nothing, because admitting the real reason would have exposed how much power my fear still had over me." The next line has been written, but not completed. They begin, "The truth is, I walked away because." Then the pen stops. Their breathing changes. The room feels suddenly still. They know that once they finish that sentence, the entire story between you may look different. They know it may explain the contradiction you could never understand. They know it may reveal why they watched from a distance, why they almost returned more than once, and why someone close to them has recently encouraged them to tell you everything. But before they can finish, their phone lights up. A notification appears. It contains your name. And the moment your soulmate reads what has just arrived, they whisper, "This changes the letter completely."